Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe and this is the news on Tuesday, the 29th of August. And all of a sudden, Manchester United have got transfer targets again. It seemed as though toward the end of last week that United were done, the Maguire deal was off, everything was fine at left back. We're probably going to stick with McTominay midfield. And then now all of a sudden, Mason Mount's injured, Luke Shaw and Malacia are injured. I know we knew about Malacia already, but now we've got both of them injured. Now there's a goalkeeper situation that's happening, and it's looking as though anywhere between 3 and 5 more transfers could be happening at Manchester United. So we're going to be covering those. We're going to be getting straight into that. But get your thoughts in the comments on all of these stories. In the last sort of 24 to 48 hours, we've seen a whole host of left-back options. This is following the news that Luke Shaw will be injured for a significant period of time. And such is the style of Ten Hag and United at the moment, you never quite get an exact reading on what the injury is from him. So it's all sort of behind the scenes, reports suggests, sources indicate in terms of the Luke Shaw injury. But what we do seem to know is that it's going to be a minimum of 2 months, potentially I've seen anywhere up to 4 months. There was a couple of tweets last night that didn't seem to claim a source, talking about some rumour that it was to do with the leg that he broke and a stress-related muscle injury to that same leg. Again, that hasn't been backed up, so I'm not going to say that that's true. But what the point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of rumours circulating, and the most reliable sources, which that wasn't, are saying it could be around 3 months, and that was The Athletic. Again, there is no good sources on exactly what the injury is, but 3 months is severe, and you're looking at, again, 3 months from now is the end of November, start of December, and if it's any more than that, you're looking at bringing him back in during that sort of Christmas period. It could be a very long time, this one, and Tyrell Malacia a similar length time as well. We probably do need some options. So we spoke about a couple of them yesterday on the podcast with Jamie Jackson. Check that out if you haven't already. Mark Cucurella, we saw Reguilon as well, the Tottenham left back, and then now in the last few hours, well, there was others. There was the Brentford left back. There was all sorts of people being mentioned in the last few hours or over the last sort of evening. Spinazzola is another name that has been mentioned. So we've got a tweet here from DiMarzio, who has kind of been up and down in terms of transfer reliability down the years, but he's always good with Italian stuff. And he is saying that Manchester United are interested in Spinazzola there, as you can see. And here is an article that sort of supports and elaborates on that tweet a little bit. United are looking again to Serie A for reinforcements. Sky Italy report, that is DiMarzio, that they made an approach for Roma and Italy fullback Leonardo Spinazzola. Ten Hag has been keeping a very close eye on Italian football, plucking talents from the league, such as Inter goalkeeper Andrea Onana, and then it says, and soon to be Sofian Amrabat. So it seems to me that this article is slightly conjecture-laden, but even if nothing else, it does sort of help translate that DiMarzio tweet for us. According to DiMarzio, this prompted United to turn towards Roma with an initial report for Spinazzola. It's only an initial request for information rather than an offer, but the transfer window closes on Friday. You see there, he was impressive for Italy at Euro 2020, where he suffered a ruptured Achilles. That's the crucial bit after that. His contract with Roma only runs to the end of the season, and he's not first choice under Jose Mourinho. So that deal is one that seems possible to make. He's not got long left, and he's not first choice. The only issue there would be, if it's a loan, you would assume that Inter would want some sort of obligation to buy, wouldn't you? Because why would they loan out a player for the last year of his contract for presumably somewhere in the region of £0 to then only lose him for a free in a year's time? You'd think they'd want some sort of transfer fee for him one way or the other. Again, that is just an option. But what we're seeing is this sort of flurry of options. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold and the cough is sort of rearing its head at the minute. What we're seeing is this flurry of options from United, which means we are interested in signing a new left-back. And I think we need to be. And I said this yesterday, but if United's expectation for the season is to even match last year's output, we can't go around for the first pretty much half of the season with a third or fourth choice left-back. I know people say, give Fernandes a chance, let Dalot play there. What if Wan-Bissaka gets injured in 3 months' time? which is very possible. What if Wan-Bissaka, I don't know, wants a rest in the next 4 months? Do you know what I mean? Then Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, our only two fit first-team fullbacks, are playing, every single game between now and Christmas? That doesn't seem reasonable. And then when Luke Shaw comes back, one of them is still going to carry on playing at right back every single game between Christmas and the end of the year, with neither of them getting injured. This is the problem with long-term injuries. If Dalot's out for 3 weeks, if he just has a twisted ankle and he has to miss, when the games start rolling in and we're playing 3 times a week, if he misses 2 weeks with injury, just a minor injury, that might be 5 or 6 games where we've got no fullbacks or no options off the bench. So it's not as simple as just stick Dalot there, because Dalot and Wan-Bissaka are our only first team fullbacks. You can't have them both playing every single game between now and December. That doesn't seem realistic to me. You're not going to get the best out of them. None of them can have a rest, and heaven forbid either of them get injured. We need a fullback. And ideally, with the amount of time that Luke Shaw and Malacia look to be out for, they need to be someone of decent quality. I would say Premier League proven would be a good start. I know you look at the proof of Cucurella and Reguilon, it's hardly proof of top-class players, but at least they're a known quantity. I think Cucurella, we've seen him have a very good season for Brighton. We saw him have a shocking season for Chelsea, but there's certainly some sort of player in there. To me, he would be the ideal option here. Spinazzola, another one who looks good. But again, I know this is a slightly... I'm just trying to think. It seems like the Italian players coming to the Premier League tend to have more trouble than most other nations in the top sort of leagues, I would say. I can reel off instantly a dozen top level French players. German is another one that it's a trickier prospect, isn't it? Spanish, again, you can reel them off for days. But when you're trying to think of the top level Italian players, you're going back to sort of Zola and Jorginho as real examples of Italian players that came to the Premier League that hit the ground running and had very good careers. It doesn't happen that often. And part of that is because Italian players often just stay in Serie A, like British players stay in England. But I do think we brought Darmian in, and it looked good to start with and didn't quite work out. And then he's gone back to Italy and plays week in, week out. So it's a bit of a question mark there, isn't there, over that sort of translation of styles between the Italian League and the Premier League. But like I said, he looked very good at the Euros. He's not starting for Roma, which is a bit of a question mark. But it's hardly, you can hardly point to Cucurella and say you're guaranteed to get top class performances out of him after last season. So I'll keep my options open. But what is clear, regardless of who it ends up being, United seem very, very interested in bringing in a left back to replace Luke Shaw and Tyrell Malacia. People talking about Italian league players that have come in: Shevchenko, Kaká. Where did Kaká play? Did he play in the Premier League? Have I lost my mind? He never played in the Premier League, did he? He went from AC Milan to Real Madrid, and then from Real Madrid to MLS, wasn't it? Crespo obviously didn't work out. Shevchenko didn't really work out. Anyway, United are in a tough spot here. So if it's either going to be Chelsea's backup left back, or Roma's backup left back, or Tottenham's backup left back. Like, the options aren't great, but United want a left back. Let's move on to another potential Tottenham backup that United are interested in, and this is Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. This is according to Jason Burt and also Dharmesh Sheth this morning from Sky, who we will be talking to later today, by the way, to get the full lowdown on this deal. This is the news that Manchester United are interested in Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. Give me your thoughts on this. Give me your thoughts on this player, because maybe my opinion is slightly dated on him. But there was a time around 18 months ago where Tottenham fans absolutely loved him. He played every single week for him. The season before last, I think he played 48 games. The season before that, 53 games. Last season, he played 44 games for Tottenham. He plays almost every week for him. And I guess his stock must have fallen a lot in that time. But there was a time where he was very highly considered and highly rated amongst Tottenham fans especially. So to me, I don't see this as a particularly bad deal. Again, we've seen this miraculous surfacing of an image of Ten Hag coaching him, which seems to pop up every time we transfer, or every time United link with anyone. But again, people are talking about Amrabat in the comments. This kind of goes against the Amrabat narrative, doesn't it? Because if you've got money for Hojbjerg, surely you've got money for Amrabat. The difference being, Hojbjerg has got 2 years left on his deal, and Amrabat, I think, has got 1 year left, hasn't he? Which means that, again, the loan option for Amrabat becomes much more difficult because it would have to be a loan with an obligation to buy, because otherwise Fiorentina aren't getting any money for him. Whereas with Hojbjerg, you could potentially have a loan with an option to buy, which gives United a bit more financial freedom in terms of bringing him in. If he's no good, you send him back, and if he's great, you buy him. Maybe that freedom and that kind of wiggle room is what's attracting United to Hojbjerg over Amrabat. People saying Amrabat is cheaper than Hojbjerg. We don't know, do we? But we don't know what the fee being mentioned here. And I'm just looking through the article. Atletico Madrid had a bid of 30 million accepted for Hojbjerg, so we know it's going to be maximum 30 million. They failed to agree personal terms. So it's a maximum of 30 million. The rumours were around 25 million for Amrabat, so maybe there's a bit of a difference there. But again, you're getting someone who is Premier League proven. If that means anything to you, maybe it doesn't. It seems to mean something to the price of players on the transfer market tend to be higher when you're buying them from Premier League clubs. Some of that is because they've just got, Premier League clubs have more money, so they don't need to sell. But some of that is because you know what Hojbjerg can give you in the Premier League. People saying 60 million then to United. Yeah, exactly. They agreed a deal of 30 to Atletico, but because it's United, we're going to double that. 30 million Hojbjerg, 21 million Amrabat. Maybe. Maybe he doesn't want Amrabat. I don't know. I just feel like the Amrabat one's a weird one, isn't it? Because why hasn't it happened? Why have we not got it done? If we can get a deal done for Hojbjerg, why have we not got a deal done for Amrabat? If he likes him and he's cheap, it doesn't make sense. Something's missing there, isn't it? Either Ten Hag doesn't really want him, or the fee is actually higher than we're hearing, or what? Something's going on. Because, for a 20 million quid player that could come in and, help out Casemiro and be a good rotation player, that seems a no-brainer. But for whatever reason, we aren't doing it. So clearly we don't want to do it. But we'll see. Some people in the comments going one step further. Sarvesh says Hojbjerg is a smokescreen for Amrabat. So maybe it's all part of the gameplay here. Hojbjerg is a smokescreen for Amrabat. They're nuts if we don't do it. Araya saying apparently Amrabat is a priority. Well, where is he then? If he's such a priority, and I'm not saying that I know anything other than what we've seen. I'm just looking at the general consensus amongst journalists, amongst reporters that have reported on this Amrabat situation. Why hasn't he arrived? If he's that much of a priority and he's that cheap, where is he? Do you know what I mean? Those two things can't both be true, that he's the priority signing and he's 20 million quid and then we haven't bought him. How do we work all that out? I don't get it. Here's another player that it does look like United will be signing, and this is Altay Bayindir, and he plays for Fenerbahce. Now, Fred has basically just done this for us. I know what tier is Fred? Just what? I don't even know. If Romano's tier 2 or tier 1 or whatever, Fred, a colleague of Bayindir, basically saying he's joining United, that has to be tier -1, doesn't it? Because this is surely happening. If we scroll down there, former Manchester United midfielder Fred has seemingly confirmed that his old club have completed the signing of Fenerbahce goalkeeper Altay Bayindir. The Brazilian, who signed for the Turkish Giants in the summer, said he had already bid farewell to Bayindir at his introductory press conference in Istanbul. If we scroll down to the quotes, let's get to the juice here. Fred said, "I wished Altay good luck when he left. He's going to a great team. I gave him some suggestions about places where he could live, and I told him it rains a lot." So, come on, let's be honest. He's leaving, isn't he? I think Altay will be very happy at Manchester United. Cryptic there from Fred, isn't it? Where will he be going? Is this deal on or not? Fred really keeping his cards close to his chest by saying he's going to Man United. I've told him where to live. I've told him it rains a lot. He's joining a great club. I think we can say pretty safely that Altay Bayindir will be the replacement for Dean Henderson in that number 2 spot for Manchester United. We've got a few super chats. J.E. Frasconi says, Joe, no doubt the injuries are part of the current situation, but there's no doubt United's transfer business is chaotic. Do you think it's simply down to the owners or that Arnold and Murtagh share the blame? I don't think every decision goes back to the sort of highest place possible, I think, in an organisation. If a business is run chaotically, you have to look at the owners for that. However, it's not, Avram and Joel Glazer sat in the meeting rooms signing these players, is it? It is Richard Arnold and John Murtagh. So they have to take some blame when things go badly and some credit when things go well. And they took a lot of credit for getting Onana, Mount and Højlund done pretty quickly. To be fair, I don't think the tricky thing is not being able to sell players. We're very bad at selling players. But you can't. It's not John Murtagh and Richard Arnold's fault that Luke Shaw and Malacia are both out till December. That's just one of those situations that, if anything, we're lucky the window is still open, because if this had happened in a week, if Luke Shaw had got injured in training after the Arsenal game, we would be effed, wouldn't we? And we just wouldn't be able to sign anyone, and you'd go, well, you could have never have predicted it. You can't blame anyone for that. It's only because the window is still open that it's almost like Murtagh and Arnold are being blamed for the fact that we've had two left-backs both succumb to sort of medium to long-term injuries. I think, if anything, they've been handed a very tricky job there. The other side of it, getting rid of players like Maguire, McTominay, Brandon Williams, Donny van der Beek, Anthony Martial potentially as well, Eric Bailly, all these players who should have gone years ago or months ago or weeks ago in some cases. The fact that they're all still there, I would say, is at the door of Murtagh and Arnold. But I think the left-back situation is, I think we should count ourselves lucky that the window's still open when Luke Shaw got injured, rather than being mad at someone else for the fact that Luke Shaw got injured in training, which, who could have predicted that? Ryan Ait Nouri, 22 quick, Prem proven. Don't seem to be any links there, does there? So, he's a decent player, but I don't think there's any chance United sign him. Darren Cox says, Amrabat I think will happen, but I heard this could be a loan and then buy. Trouble is, we can only do 2 loans this window. Well, we haven't got any loans so far, have we? So if we got a central midfielder and a defender on loan, that could potentially work. Peter Affleck says, dusty club. we are a little bit of a dusty club, aren't we? Nick Quigley says, who in the club signs the final paperwork? The Glazers. I'm not trying to take blame away from the Glazers, but I think that the money and the way that the club is ran, again, falls back on the Glazers always. Because if you hire bad people and you're surprised that, why aren't we making as much profit as we should be? Why have our revenues gone up by substantially less than pretty much every other club in the top 6 over the last 15 years? Why has that happened? Everyone else's has gone up by about 10 times, and ours has gone up by about 4 times. That's at the Glazers. So the fact that we're having to sort of work our way through this maze of FFP is the Glazers' fault. But, the fact that Luke Shaw got injured last week isn't the Glazers' fault, is it? It's just bad luck, unfortunately. Right, that's going to be all from us. If there is any breaking news between now and the end of the window, we will be live instantly. So make sure you hit subscribe and hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss anything. We'll be back later on today, like I said before, with Sky Sports' very own Dharma Sheth. He has been talking about this Hojbjerg deal this morning, so we'll get the absolute latest on that as well. That's coming out at 4 p.m. today, so make sure you tune in for that. Thank you for joining us. This has been Stretford Paddock, Manchester United news on the morning of 29th of August 2023. Only 3 days left of the window. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yes, 3 days left of the window. I reckon, this is my prediction, I think we'll sign 3 players between now and the end of the window. So we've got a busy week ahead, so make sure you stay tuned, and we'll see you in a bit.